Welcome back to Dion Talk. In today's video, I'm going to cover four habits that allowed me to retire early. Our habits make us who we are. Habits maketh man. I'm not going to say the habit of making more, spending less, saving and investing the difference makes you financially free, allows you to retire early. That's not a habit. That's a plan or a strategy. And I see Justin is joining me here in my live. Howdy, Justin.
Howdy.
Be just a minute while I go through these four habits that allowed me to reach financial freedom, and then people should hang around for the live tonight. Just so you know, Justin, we are already live on YouTube. Make sure you're wearing pants. Fair enough. And then, are you on a phone or an iPad?
I'm on a phone, but I can go to a laptop.
Flip it sideways for me. There you go.
There.
And then I'll do an intro on who you are after these four habits, because I put in the chat that we were going to have a special guest tonight, but I didn't tell everybody who it was going to be. So now they know. So the four habits that allowed me to retire early. So when you reach financial freedom, it's not that you have to retire early. It's that you can. And an example is going to be Justin tonight. Because while I'm super lazy and retired early by reaching financial freedom, making work optional, and then planning on never working again in my life, Justin did the same thing, but is working in his investments, has a very different strategy than mine. Mine is the lazy investor. So for a decade, this was one of the four habits that allowed me to reach financial freedom. This first one confuses people. I had to develop the habit. First, understand what a habit is. A habit is something, generally, the definition I like the most is doing something for 21 days. Once you do something for 21 days, you either make or break a habit, something you want to do or something you want to stop doing. If you can do it for 21 days, you can generally continue it indefinitely. And so this first one is one I plan on doing indefinitely. The first habit is I eliminated all commercials. So to make this a habit, I had to adjust the way I was taking in content. First, YouTube Premium. Pay for premium so you never have a commercial on another YouTube video again. How much YouTube do you watch? That probably has the greatest ROI on your time. And frustration level of having to click the little skip button that pops up. I haven't seen a commercial on YouTube. I do open videos up and I see all the little check marks in the video of where their commercials are, and I think, ooh, who would watch that many commercials to get this content or anyone's content? Hulu, no commercials. Netflix, Amazon Prime. If something has a commercial, don't watch it. I have not been tricked into buying something in a decade because somebody with a master's degree and years of experience in advertising and human psychology made a sound or an image make me want to buy something. The less you buy, the less you're going to spend. So back to that first thing, that's not a habit. Make more, spend less, save and invest the difference. The second thing you need to do, which I'm doing by having Justin here, is to audit your network. If we go back 10 years ago, the people that I hang out with, anybody who lives in Washington, ever go to Thecla's? I knew, like most people, I was planning for the weekend. And most of my group of friends were planning for the weekend. I went to a birthday party for my circle of friends from a decade ago recently and was reminded of how much my life changed when I stopped hanging out with the exact same people. Find people like Justin, like Millennial Mike, like Matt the Lumberjack Landlord, like Zuber, who are planning for decades, not days. When you audit your network and you have that habit of when you get off work, do you go to dinner with people who spend your money on drinks? Or do you interact with people who are advancing their financial situation, investing and putting their money to work to make work optional? When you audit your network, it completely changes all of your habits, because the people around you are going to dictate what you do habitually. This third habit is a trick that I recommend, and I've actually used this on a couple of trips I've taken with Millennial Mike. So it actually has two benefits. This is a habit of, some of us deal with our stress by needing and having a storegasm. People need to spend money to feel better, to get the new item, to get the new gaming computer, to take the trip, to spend the money. Justin used to work at Amazon. I am a fan of Amazon. I am an Amazon affiliate. You can actually see some of the links in my description below on the locks that I use for my rentals, the LED motion sensor exterior lights that I use in my rentals, links to Audible books like One Rental at a Time and 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires by Michael Zuber that I narrated for Audible, which is on Amazon. But don't go on Amazon and buy something. Go on Amazon, look at the things that you feel like buying, the things that you need, you buy, the things that you want to buy, put it in your shopping cart, leave it there for a couple of days. Clicking on it, putting it in the shopping cart sometimes satisfies that mental need to have a storegasm, but the other effect that it does is a trick that I use on rental cars. Millennial Mike and I have taken some trips, and we'll look at the place, the destination, and the rental car will be somewhere between $50 or $110 a day, depending on the car that you need. Millennial Mike is about 11 and a half feet tall, so we have to get an SUV or something that he'll fit in when we do rental cars. But if you go to the websites for Sixt, Fox, Travelocity, any of the websites, and look, put in your dates, put in the car that you're interested, and don't purchase it. Within 24 to 48 hours, you'll start getting emails of 50, 70, 75% off rental cars. So the times we've taken trips, I've generally paid $20 or $22 a day for a nice SUV for rental cars. Make it a habit to look at what you're buying online, virtually, and not buy it for a couple of days. You might get that storegasm out of the way, you might get a better deal, and then you might also decide you don't actually want that thing. The fourth habit that had to work for me because I have some memory issues. I don't know if I've told you that, Justin, but in Desert Storm, I had some head trauma and I've got some pretty good memory issues. So the fact that I remember your name, remember that you were coming to this, I'm super happy because stuff like that doesn't happen. I'm the Post-it guy that's got Post-its everywhere. A million reminders on my calendar. But what I had to do is make it a habit. And I recommend this for everybody who's watching. First, make it a habit to always check your chat to see if there's 15 people saying there's no sound, because I've done that before. Automate everything. There's two sides to this coin. Also, the first automation that you do is all bills should be automated. Your memory should not be the reason why your credit score takes a hit. That's the first step. Everything is automated. The second step, we've all heard the phrase pay yourself first. Why do retirement accounts grow more than most investing accounts for the average person? Because it happens without them seeing it. You pay your union dues, you pay your health care, you pay your taxes out of your wages before you get it. And then some people think, I'm now going to spend my money on everything that I need and then save and invest what's left. Instead of, go to your HR department, automate a payment every month. Start with $50 or $100 or whatever you can afford. And now that it's measured, you can improve it. As time goes on, you can figure out the amount of money out of your paycheck that you can live without and pay yourself first. Have that go directly into your savings account that's used for the next investment. Make it a habit for that account to grow without you having to actively contribute to it. I think that's the shortest, fastest intro I've ever done on one of my live streams. I usually shoot for 10 minutes and they go about 30. We're just now hitting 9. So I'm okay with that. So I'll get to all the comments. The purpose of these videos, these Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. Pacific videos that come out every week. Now this is 105 weeks in a row, is to answer questions. My live stream generally lasts as long as the questions do. This month, it's a little bit different. For the month of December, my course live Zoom calls where everybody in the course, words are hard, jumps on Zoom with me at 6 o'clock Pacific. So we have 2 hours tonight. But Justin, if you could do me a favor, the first time that we interacted, you were running a mastermind group inside Amazon for real estate and investing, and I came and presented virtually. and we've met, had lunch. You live and house hack close to me here. But can you give a breakdown on how your investing started, where it was when we first interacted, and then some changes that you've done and what your portfolio looks like now?
Got it. Hey, first, thanks for having me on here. I'm super humbled that you'd have me on the Dion Talk Financial Freedom. This is awesome. So this is my first YouTube live, and I'm dialed in on my laptop as well, so I'm trying to read the comments as we go here. But in terms of where I started, so very first one, and I still live here. It's by the airport. That's a house hack. I live in a 1-bedroom. I rent the 3-bedroom out. Originally it was long-term, then went to short-term. Now it's a medium-term rental. So that was my first investment. I'm still living there. And then as I started investing more, I realized, hey, I can't buy a lot of properties in Seattle. So then I bought in Yakima, which is an 11 unit. And then I had, I was working at Amazon. I had all these restricted stock units coming in. And so I was like, I want to keep buying, but I can't buy at these high prices, and I want cash flow so I can retire earlier. So then that's when I got into out-of-state investing. And I went really, really big into Milwaukee. And I think when I met you, I probably had around 20 to 25 properties. Most of those were in Milwaukee. You're talking about earlier about bad memory. You told me, because I had reached out after you were on BiggerPockets, and was like, hey, can you come talk to this Amazon group? And you're like, hey, I have bad memory. So just as a reminder, you automated for me to respond to you and say, hey, we've got a meeting coming up. So like a couple of minutes before, I was like, hey, just making sure you're going to dial into the call. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do the call. So when I met you, I think that was probably 2021 I'm ballparking it. At that time, mid-20s. Fast forward today, I've been actually selling some of the Midwest and bringing the cash back into, I'll call 1 hour of Seattle. And the reason for that is more appreciation here versus the Midwest. And then I'm looking for more stable cash flow. Also, I'm an agent here. I did watch your post about should I be a realtor or not. So I'm kind of went reverse. It's a way to help me make more money as I go. But because I'm buying, generally speaking, 1 hour of Seattle, I can be my own agent here, and I'm able to find more deals on market and off market. So my shift here is to bigger and better deals that are more stabilized, because being a lazy landlord like Dion likes to do is more and more appealing to me nowadays.
So when we met, though, you were working at Amazon and running that mastermind. You have retired from that full-time work. And so I want people to understand that now you can be a real estate agent because it doesn't hinder you from growing and advancing at your W-2, and it doesn't take your time away from investing. You are an agent. You're not somebody who got their license to make their deals better. There's a big difference there. And I'm always really careful to make sure people don't compare like my year 10 to their year 1. So your current portfolio, what does that look like that lets you retire early, not have that job, and then become a real estate agent? Because like Millennial Mike, and I don't mean this in a condescending or rude, mean way, what else are you going to do? Like it's why not at that point, right? Yeah. So what's the portfolio look like now?
So I've sold some. So I'm down to 40 properties. I think it's about 110 rental units, just right around 10,000 net cash flow, assuming everybody pays, which nowadays I'm seeing more bad debt. But yeah, it's what I like to say is work is optional. And so like, could I live and not do any work? Yeah. But I want to go to the next level of financial security. At the end game, like I want FU money, and I'm not even near FU money. I'm kind of the excuse me kind of money, So I want FU money so I can do whatever I want whenever I want. So I've actually been really hustling because I'm learning that development burns a lot of cash, and so that's why I've been very active in the agent side to help fund I'm doing some flips and some development projects in Seattle area.
So developing and flipping, I don't know that most people understand how much money that actually takes.
Oh yeah.
You see tens of thousands of dollars a month going out, and your cash flow doesn't replenish that fast. It does replenish it. And when the deal is done, the money is there. But I'm doing one Burr, and that Burr tells me it's my last Burr, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though the result. So if I had maybe half the cash flow that I did and maybe another 10 years ahead of me, I would probably be in more of a growth phase. But there's a hard thing for most people to get is, you said you're going to that next level. A lot of people will get to that next level and then generate another next level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no enough. And for me, that was a life-changing event when I realized what enough was.
Mm-hmm.
So someone's starting out today and anywhere in the country, right? So price to income ratios, right, are kind of a flawed metric, right? You can't say it's too expensive to invest in an area because you don't know what the person makes. You don't know what their current interest rates are. You don't know what their living conditions are, their family size, all of that. But what are some things that investors can do? So you reached financial freedom by investing in rentals. What was probably like the top 3 things you tried to get the people in your mastermind to understand about starting in real estate?
Oh man, 1, 2, and 3 is start, because
Love it.
the thing about Amazon, they're really smart people there, like way smarter than I was. So, but their problem is they're actually too smart. And I could show them a property and be like, in the Midwest at the time when I was buying, it was like $70,000 for a duplex, 700 per side for rent, so 1,400. Like, almost don't even need to do math. It's like 1,400 coming in. My mortgage was like 350. Like easy math, right? But they would get so hung up on how, running the analysis. Is it a good deal? Is it a bad deal? Is it risky? Who do I need to know? And I'm like, guys, just buy the property. Like, and for me, these are low properties. And I was like, if I have a bunch of these small ones, if one burns up in a fire, there's an earthquake or whatever, it doesn't sink the whole ship. And so my biggest thing about that was get into the game. And then back to you're talking about audit your network. I didn't have a group around me, so I created it. That was the real estate at Amazon group. And so start talking to other people about investing. And then the third one is just improve, like incrementally improve on what you've done. So very easy things to do, because at the end of the day, it's real estate investing. A lot of these people that are super wealthy never graduated high school or college. The biggest thing they do is take action. And that's the one thing that I've been good at doing over time. Not all action is great, but over time, action will help overcome the fears and the problems that you run into.
I love it. Last week I read a Christmas book on my channel called Shut Up and Wait. And it's the people who think, I can't buy a house, I can't own a rental, I can't, and all of the can'ts, all of the excuses, instead of take some action, right? You increase your income without increasing your expenses. That doesn't mean you all of a sudden have a bunch of money. But if you do that and then you shut up and wait a few months, the money starts to build up.
Yep.
And if you work on your credit score, it doesn't automatically go to above 800. But if you do the things consistently that will increase your income, your credit score, and then you shut up and wait, your credit score will go up. Hard concept for people to understand that it takes years, but in those years, you have to be doing the right things. And the right things are hunting for deals, making sure you're ready, making sure you understand your strategy, the market you're investing in, how to recognize a good deal, and to buy those great deals. And you'll hear a lot of investors that have been doing it for 5, 10, or 15 years talk about, I only do it if it's a great deal, because I don't want to waste my time on just a good deal. I want a great deal. That's because they already have the portfolio that's generating the cash flow so that they can now be picky. In those first years, I recommend going for base hits. right? RBIs don't happen without someone on base. So if you get those base hits and then you wait a few years, mortgages go up slightly, rents go up a lot. Things can happen where if you buy through 2015, 2018, and then all of a sudden 2020, the world says, hey, why don't we offer everybody 3% interest rates? Then you refinance and now you're making a ton of money. But it happens over time. So I love that. All three of those. I like that all three are start. Just giving
Yeah.
me, right. I've got a friend, he's just at the point where he could probably buy an investment property, but he's got it in his head he wants to buy a house first. You would think the lazy investor that has all small multifamily, almost all except for one single family, would say, no, 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 you need to go buy this. No, I'm totally on board with him just buying a house. If that's what he needs to get on the property ladder and then wait 2 to 4 years to save the down payment, build the equity in the house, and keep his payment and his rent the same or whatever, and then add properties in 2 or 4 years, I'm okay with that. Because he's got to start. And I can't change his opinion to go out and make him buy a rental property. But once he owns a house, I'm going to say howdy to everybody here. So how this works is we go through and we look for questions. So if you see a question that I'm missing, you can let me know. Howdy to everybody. Anybody that's here that missed the beginning, remember tonight's course call happens at 6 p.m. Pacific. Frank Contreras says, if anybody knows of an available ticket for Vegas, we could use one. So if anybody bought tickets and might not be going, reach out to me and I'll connect you with Frank. I will put my email in the chat. Yeah, I don't know. Justin, are you coming to the February event?
Oh man, I jumped in on the VIP.
Okay. So you'll be there February 17th and 18th in Vegas. Millennial Mike and I are going down the Monday before to the Monday after. We've got our Airbnb with several other people there. We'll be doing midnight Denny's meetings. So the nights before the event, probably not the Friday night of, because I think we actually are probably going to want some sleep before the event.
Yeah, I was talking to Mike about it. I'm trying to squeeze in on that Airbnb.
I think that's together. That's like
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna lump you in there unless you did, but since you said sure, yep, you're one of the people that's in there with us. So
I've made it. I'm hanging out with the famous people now.
got to audit that network.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny you say it. You're hanging out with the famous people. I'm hanging out with the guy that used to run a mastermind at Amazon that downsized his portfolio to 40 units or so. Yeah, that's us auditing our network, right? Rob says I'm here, but I got to wait for YouTube commercials back in 10. YouTube Premium is, if you watch more than 30 minutes of YouTube a day, right? I would say, oh, nobody should watch 3 or 4 hours of Netflix a day, but they do. But 30 minutes of YouTube, YouTube University, so not TikTok cat videos or whatever dancing videos you're looking at, but something on YouTube, some financially motivated. You go to Alux, you go to One Rental at a Time, you watch one of these channels. YouTube Premium's probably got the best ROI on your money as far as the internet goes.
100%. I bought the premium a long time ago. Premium, I'm at 2x. So I never listen regular speed. So when I see Michael Zuber in person, I'll be like, man, you talk so slow. Because I'm so used to him just like 2xing it the whole time.
I've had a lot of people tell me that. They're like, so I've had other people, when I first made the channel, there were several people who said, I really like that you don't talk really fast. Like I can follow you. And then I've had other people that say, you sound great on 2x. It's perfect. I'm like, oh, good. So there's an option. Rob says, since COVID put me to working from home, my network is now my dog. So I take more naps. That's a perfect plan, I think. Wealth building journey. Howdy, Chester. Absolutely. I put everything in the Amazon cart, then wait a couple of days. If it was that important, I still get it. Delayed gratification pays off. I totally agree with that. And then you'll get the incentives. You'll start getting weird emails that say, why don't you buy this thing with this discount? Because we see you were interested in it, because they're always listening. Aldo, howdy. When refinancing out of an FHA loan to get rid of the mortgage insurance, will it impact the interest rate that I currently have? Yes. That is one of the drawbacks to FHAs so with a conventional loan, right, which although depending on your situation, this is very confusing. And so I want to break this down and make sure that it doesn't sound like I'm attacking you because your situation might have called for FHA. But a lot of new investors will use FHA because they see the F and the H and they think it means first-time home buyer. And it doesn't. It's actually a really bad loan product for first-time home buyers. It's Federal Housing Authority, FHA. It's not designed to get you into your home. It actually wasn't even designed to get what it does. It wasn't designed to help people with bad credit and bad debt to income get on the property ladder, which is what the definition of it is listed as. It came out in 1934 because of the Great Depression, and it was a way to get builders. 2 million people were laid off in construction in 1934. That was a large amount of the workforce. And they said the government will back FHA loans to build houses for people who have bad debt to income, can't get loans to get on the property ladder, but it brought people back to work. So if you watch, the biggest uptick in all FHA usage happens during recessions. That's the purpose of FHA, is to shorten the duration of a recession. But here's why it's a bad loan product. If your credit score is under 600 and your debt to income ratio is above 45%, and your only way to get on the property ladder is FHA, it's a great loan product. If before November 18th, 2023, you wanted to buy a triplex or a fourplex with less than or 5% or less down, FHA was a great loan product. Now it's 5% down conventional, 4 units or less. Conventional loans, you don't even have to refinance for the mortgage insurance to automatically go away. You just need 22% equity. It's 20% or less when you're buying, but if you own it, it's once your equity hits 22%, automatically it goes away. And I say automatically because you still need to call your lender to kind of remind them that this is probably happening. With FHA, you have a loan and the mortgage insurance, and this is in the verbiage, lasts the length of the loan, right? So it doesn't define all of the ways you can get rid of mortgage insurance. It just says as long as you have this loan, you have mortgage insurance. So your options are sell the property, that would get rid of your mortgage insurance, refinance to a completely new loan, which puts you at current interest rates. So if you got your FHA loan in 2020 or you refinanced in 2020 to whatever the interest rates are, 3% or less, you're probably going to double your interest rates now to lose the mortgage insurance. So it might not be the best thing to do. The other thing that FHA does is you can only have one at a time. So some people will think I can only house hack once. I can't house hack again because I would have to refinance out of this one, would double my interest rate. Even though the mortgage insurance might go away, my payment will go up. Yes, you can only have one FHA loan at a time, but that doesn't mean you can only have one owner-occupied loan at a time. You can now do conventional asset-based seller financing, owner-occupy another property without doing another FHA. So I'm really sorry to answer your question is yes, it will definitely impact your current interest rate. I do appreciate the question, and hopefully it didn't sound like I was attacking you, because I totally get it. For some people, it is the best option at the time. The problem is a lot of people take it when it wasn't the best option. Gavin, howdy. Would love to chat with your guest offline. And I failed at this because of my memory. Justin, if people want to reach out to you, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
I just put a comment down in there on my Instagram.
Okay.
So if you go for JC Canberra, that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Perfect. Justin, how did you decide upon Milwaukee? I'm looking at the Midwest for out-of-state investing also, so definitely would like to hear your thought process.
Yeah, so for me, back to you call yourself a lazy investor. It's not like I looked on a map and was like, this is the spot to go. I knew that I couldn't cash flow locally, and I was like, where can I cash flow? I was listening to BiggerPockets. Some guy in LA, I don't know who he is. He was on the podcast and he talked about Milwaukee. And I'm like, well, geez, I'm going to Madison for my annual golf trip. And I was like, I'll just fly into Milwaukee, drive to Madison, check out Milwaukee on the way there. And I went into town and it was so cheap, because like, at the time it was probably for in Seattle, like a nice duplex was like, call it 600,000. You could buy a duplex. Now, granted, it's over 100 years old for 60,000. So like my first duplex I bought was 62,000. And so I just, I heard about it. I was already going to be in the area and then it was cheap. And I was like, this is the way I'm going to do. I'm going to just test it out. And then once I got one, I quickly bought more very rapidly because it's, I was doing commercial loans, 20% down. So on 60 to 70K, I was like $15,000. I'm buying a property.
So heard about an investor on BiggerPockets, probably had a big impact on a lot of people. There's things I've done from watching Bigger. I see you wearing the BiggerPockets shirt. I don't mention it too much. I probably should. I'm the teaching assistant, one of the teaching assistants for the BiggerPockets boot camps. So Ashley Kerr from the Real Estate Rookie podcast, which is the one I prefer. So I won't say that I don't listen to the other, but the other seems to be for people with bigger goals and aspirations than mine. But the Rookie podcast is you've done 10 deals or less. How did you start? Like that's the target audience. And I really enjoy those boot camps because it's a lot of one-on-one type Zoom stuff. And it's hard to watch some of your content creators pull away from what you like. So the BiggerPockets OG podcast is very different than the Rookie one. But it's like, I like Graham Stephan. But I really like Graham Stephan 2016 to 2019. Right? I like that was his content that I really liked. Basilio, howdy. Justin, how did you fund those deals?
So the first, I would say 19 properties, they were all, it was just 100% me. And, no matter when you start, you will run out of money. So when I first started, I did an FHA loan. I got in for, I think it was 3.5% down in my house hack. And then I took my Amazon RSUs, restricted stock units, when they're granted. I would then sell, buy properties. These were, only about 15,000 for me to get into a property. And then those would appreciate. I do cash out refi. I have more money. I go buy more properties, and it just, this is the whole thing. Get in, let it do what it does, appreciate, cash out refi. And then that's how I went through phase one. It was just, I was just stroking checks up. But then evolved into, I had partnerships. Today I have about 8 properties that are partnerships, but they can be labor intensive. So I don't really do any equity partnerships, only do debt partnerships. But then my final phase, I've been very, very into creative financing. So lease options subject to seller financing, wraps. And then now I'm layering in another level, which is private money. So like I'm now able to get into deals with zero money out of pocket, buy the property, fix it up, refi, pay out the people, and then own property for $0.
You were playing soccer with Millennial Mike here recently, and I think that interaction is kind of what he's doing too, the private money, the recycling too. When it comes to real estate investing, there is no one right way, right? There's a one right way for the person watching. There's a way that will work for them, a way that works for me, a way that works for you. One of the things I talk about when it comes to Mike or you or the lumberjack landlord or Michael Zuber is ultimately after 15 or 20 years, your portfolios will be multiples of what mine is. Your cash flow will be multiples of what mine is. There's a very big difference between recycling capital, which is what you did with the cash out refinances, and recycling cash flow. So, and then there's a big difference between investing out of state versus investing in our high cost of living area. So I've talked with Millennial Mike a couple times, and he thinks had we met sooner, he might have more considered investing in Washington. Because here's a couple of dynamics, a couple of the metrics to look at. 40 units, $10,000 a month in cash flow, right? 18 units, $20,000 a month in cash flow. It just broke the 20th. January 1st, I gave myself $1,000 raise. and it's going to be just above 20,000 in pure cash flow. So less units, but you were doing deals and getting the excitement and having that dopamine hit. I was 2 years, one deal, 2 years, one deal, year and a half, one deal. So like 5.5 years to do 3 things, right? It's so not sexy and so slow and so boring. And in those first 5 years, the cash flow wasn't that much. It was $300, maybe $400 a unit. So it was good, but it wasn't life impacting. But after 6 years, when those first few, without a HELOC, without a cash out refinance, without a 1031, I'm getting over $1,000 a unit on my rentals because of not touching capital and then time. And this breaks the lumberjack landlord's brain, because if you look at the return on equity, like if you look at what if I sold everything and walked away, I'd make probably another 50% in cash flow if I reinvested that money with the same returns. But lazy, right? So put the money to work, do that. Now go forward 20 years, 10 more years from where I'm at, my portfolio will increase slightly. Some of the properties will be a little more paid off. My rents will be a little bit higher. My mortgages will be very similar to where they are now. But someone like you or Mike will be in the position of Zuber and Lumberjack, where you have 100+ units, tens of thousands, some pluralize that, of cash flow every month. So it just depends on what the person's goal is, maybe the age they're starting at, right? I didn't start even saving for investing until I was 40, right? And Mike is millennial Mike. You can put the name together. He's not quite Cody level of 30 rentals before you can buy a beer, but it's not far off. So the person watching, depending on your age, your end goals, your current bandwidth, are you doing the investing because you need the dopamine hits, or are you doing the investing because you're lazy, working full-time, raising kids, trying to have a family, and you just want to invest in things that don't take work? Like I said, this is my first and last Burr. It was 12 years of investing before I tried a Burr or any rehab, actually. So I think both strategies are valid, and it depends. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What is the beholder in this situation? I see Cody here has a question. As a member of the members only group, there will be a members only meeting, this Zoom meeting this Saturday. I'll pick the time and I'll put the thing up Friday, so you have a whole day for the notification to come out. If you're not a member, the members is when we go on Zoom and we look at deals. It's specifically targeted at looking at emails with leads from agents, and then we stream of consciousness look at a deal to tell you, as an investor, what would I use to qualify or disqualify that property. Question from Cody. Dion and Justin, what are your goals for 2024? I'll let you go first.
Oh man, I actually was this past weekend, for those people that are in Washington, I was at the Gorge and I spent all day Saturday and only focused on that. So I'd have to, actually, I printed it out.
There you go.
So I just joined a mastermind called Go Abundance, and they have a thing called the One Sheet. And so here it is. So it's right here. So my goal for the year, and there's like 8 different categories. There's a ton, but I'll keep it on the real estate part. So let's see. My goal is to do, they have vertical income and horizontal. Vertical is like active income, meaning like if I'm doing a real estate agent transaction that's active, my time is required to make money. Horizontal is like the rental properties. So like my goal for horizontal is to make 2 million, vertical is 4 million. Now, these are like massive numbers. I'm not near them today, but I'm trying to hire people and build my portfolio up to where I can make active income as an agent, also as a wholesaler, as a fix and flip, and then I have all my rentals and development projects as well. So I'm trying to shoot for the stars, like back to what eye of the beholder, because like everything I do is like, how much can I build and continue to grow my portfolio? I am a deal junkie. That's why I keep buying, because like, we were talking about earlier, it's actually 110 units. So it's not even $100 a unit. Now, why is that? Some of them I have alligators, which, most people on here, you're like, don't buy alligators. But I have alligator properties that are at 0%. so I strategically have done that by design. But in terms of goals, I'm more of a believer of set them high, shoot for them, and then even if I get 50% of the way there, I'm way better off than where I'm at right now.
Right, shoot for the stars, and worst is you land on the moon, right?
Exactly.
I don't know if I got that analogy right, but it was something like that. Uh, I guess this is the time of the year people set resolutions or set goals. I have one goal for 2024. One. I want to spend more time out of the US than in the US. That's my
Nice.
2024 goal. It'll probably mostly be in Thailand. I'm probably going to the Philippines. A couple of years ago, the plan was to go to Russia. That's kind of on hold. But that's it. That's the cool thing with being lazy. I guess here's the thing, and nobody looked because that'd be cheating. I would like to pass 15,000 subscribers before the end of 2024. There you go.
Before the end of 2023.
2024. There's like 90 people to go. That's way too many.
Oh man,
I
I'd bet
don't
on
have those lofty $2 million goals like you do.
Yeah.
I
High
also
risk,
have
high
the.
reward.
What's that?
I said high risk, high reward, but this is what and yeah, I don't know your experience, but you can when I first retired, I traveled and totally screwed off for 3 months. And then it's you can only sit around for so long. So now it's how big can I take this thing? And so that's why I want to continue to build everything up. It's stressful at times, but when I look back and see what I did, I'm like, man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no. Again, what are your ultimate goals? And you have to know who you are, like yourself. I've heard so many people say, I would be afraid of retiring because I wouldn't know what to do with my time. Maybe that person shouldn't retire. Or they should listen to the YouTube channel Joe Kuhn and retire to something, not from something. I know myself. And I hope people understand the absolute transparency and honesty in this sentence. There is never enough time to do all of the nothing that I want to. Calvin and Hobbes. Psychology. And then I see we have, I think there was a super chat here. Fra, 15, howdy. Dion found you 18 months ago, just bought first house hack, fourplex, to the binder strategy yesterday, and the one tenant asked for a 38% increase in rent. That is a terrible outcome. I'm very sorry that you had to suffer through that. That's amazing. That is the reason why I put the binder strategy out, is because not only are you getting a 38% rent increase, which I'd love to hear the numbers on. My email is in the chat. I'll put it in here again. Maybe you could send me some details or maybe come on and do a video. But you have a happy tenant. You have a happy tenant who just had a massive rent increase because they got to be involved in the conversation. They're educated about what rents actually are in the area. They know what your best option would be for them to move out, you to do a rehab, and you probably get more than a 38% increase. But that takes time, energy, effort, and you have to displace a tenant. So congratulations. That's awesome.
I still haven't. I recommend that binder strategy after you've been watching you do it. I have a property that I'm buying February 1st, where I'm gonna do that binder method because their rent is 2,100, market rent's about 3,000, and they're on Section 8. So, but it's a long-term tenant. I don't want them to move because if they move, now I got to fix up the interior. That's just more cash out. So
yeah,
I'm gonna
you don't want to do more cash out. You really don't want to displace the tenant. You don't want to have to advertise, screen, and place another tenant. So the binder strategy works with Section 8. Like there's actually in the course a section for Section 8. And so you can go to the HUD, the fair market rents from the HUD, which January 1st has a massive increase. Where's this one located?
Tukwila.
Tukwila. Okay, so it's in Washington. Yeah, it's one of my part of my $1,000 raise I'm giving myself in January is because of Section 8. I did the binder strategy without really having to. I could have just done this, but I like to do their work for them. I said, here's the new amount that HUD will pay. right? And you have a 10% variance above this. Here's 4 comps in the area, same number of units with no extras, not like a garage and a pool or anything like that, just 4, this many bedrooms. And I said, here's what you would pay. Here's what the comps are. Here's where we're at. I'm only increasing this much. No questions asked. They sent back absolutely. The increase goes to them, not the tenant. The tenant's rent is staying exactly the same, and the HUD is paying the difference. So yeah, when you're ready to do that, when you close on that property, reach out and I'll help you go through with the email and what it should look like for that counselor for that person.
Oh, dude, I love it. That'd be sweet. We can then, I'm sure you probably already done on our channel, but we could do live and be like, obviously take the address out, but like go live and
yeah, we take the address out because we'll just go, it's this county because that's how HUD works. It's this county. Here's the comps. Could show the addresses, the comps because they're all on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, whatever. You don't even have to share any of the information on yours. Just how many bedrooms. That's it.
Right.
And I'll go, here's where you're at. Here's what will more than likely be accepted without any pushback. And if you want to go any higher, here's how we would phrase that. Because we can also look at BAH, right? You're kind of far from JBLM to have an impact, right? But there is a BAH for Tukwila because we had employees at the CDL school that lived in Kent that were stationed on JBLM, so they were getting BAH there, and it was pretty significant. So you could say, here's what the military is paying, here's what you guys are allowed to pay, here's the comps. It's all kinds of ways to articulate that and keep your tenant happy. And then the chronology of how you do it. First, you go to the tenant. When you have Section 8, first you go to the tenant because you have a lease with them. You sign the new lease. The lease and your email goes to the housing authority for approval because you have a lease with the tenant, contract with housing authority. And then Craw had a continuance here. I think it was answering Aldo's. My understanding is if you can ask for the PMI removed without refinancing once you have 20, that's very conventional. With FHA, it's a professional term for you're screwed. You're screwed. Yeah. So I wish it would automatically go away. I would probably recommend FHA more, but there's a lot of reasons why I don't. Sometimes it's the best option for the person, for the amount down, for what lenders are offering at the time, but not always. And then I lost my spot. Make sure there's no super chats that I'm missing here. Okay. I see BuzzTune. Thanks, Justin, for hopping on. They appreciate that. They appreciate your time. And then Wealth Building Journey gifted a membership to Mandy W. Awesome. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Hope to see you in the members only this Saturday. Christmas Eve is Sunday, right? So it'll be Saturday. Yeah. There is a term for Christmas Eve, and I forget it. There's actually a word that says it. Wealth Building Journey, agree that a bias for action is useful, but as a financial analyst by day, the higher up one is in an organization, that bias for action can backfire when a slick-talking salesperson can con a new VP into a multi-million-dollar purchase that does nothing. You have to be careful of somebody who's trying to sell you something. If they have the background in marketing and the years of experience, it isn't a fair fight.
Okay, just a quick call out. This the Wealth Building Journey. I've never even looked up what the HUD value is. I just looked it up while you're talking. It's $3,500. So
here, let me do this really quick. I'll do it with sharing the screen here in a second. So this is what this looks like, and this is what Justin is talking about. You go to this website, which probably Wealth Building Journey because he's like a ninja fast. We'll put this in the chat to go to after the video, but it has per the year here. You go down here to the fiscal 2024 because what this will do is it'll show us currently what they're paying and then what will happen as of January 1st. So Washington, Tukwila, what county is that? Is that Pierce or King?
King
County. Okay. So fair market rents, how many bedrooms? 3?
3 bed.
All right. So it is experiencing just over a, what is that? $200 increase?
Yeah.
From this month until January 1st. But showing them this, knowing that area average, if you said it was around 3,000, right? So you're probably going to find some comps 3,000 to 3,400, right? Maybe even higher. You don't want to go too high. You don't want to look at the outliers so that they can then go, well, let me check. And they go, well, he's way off. You kind of want to find not really the mean, not really the average, not really the median. You want to find the mode.
Mhm.
The most common rental price for that many bedrooms in the area. So when you go for your increase, if you're taking it to 3,000, tell me where their office staff has an argument to say no. You'll literally be able to go, you're $500 more than that. The comps are this much more than that. I'm only going to here. You don't have to kick the tenant out. You don't have to do a rehab. You get a significant rent increase. Although when you look at data like this, you understand why some people just go, yep, kick the tenant out, do a rehab. I'm going to get 3,700 because it's the brand new shiniest one in the area. But that's not my strategy, and that's not what I recommend.
Man, that was life changing. I mean, that'll go that'll go into it's an alligator at 2,100.
Of course, most of mine were almost alligators when I bought them, like literally almost bad deals.
Yeah. Yeah. And geez, because that one that's the effective interest rate is about 2%.
So what you
So
do not do currently while under contract on closing is say anything to your agent, the listing agent, the seller on what your plans are with the property. Because if they go and look, there's plenty of slip twixt a lip and a cup, and they could cancel the deal for any reason whatsoever when they realize I just call Section 8 and I'm making another $800 a month. Why am I selling this?
exactly. This one's an off market direct to seller.
Nice. Make sure I'm not missing any of the chats here. I got the deciding on Milwaukee. Sometimes I'm listening at 2x speed just to realize I'm already at 2x speed. All nighter hider. Nice. Jason. Yeah.
I'm pumped to see this all night hider guy. We are in the same, like, he's into macroeconomics like I am. I see him over in George Gamon, his channel. So I've seen him in I've never met him in person though. So I'm hoping he's going to be in Vegas.
I haven't watched George Gamon yet. I watched Jason Hartman. He's in that chat a lot. We met at the Zuber event last time with All Nighter Hider. I'm so looking forward to see you again. But apparently George Gamon and I had some of the same history teachers because I'll make a video on I try not to be too political because it'll just cancel your channel, right? You'll be demonetized and they'll shadow ban you. But I talked a little bit about how the Soviet Union was able to keep the Soviets thinking that communism was the way because they would show the American stores and they would say, look at all of these stores with all this products on the shelf, right? The manufacturers can produce more than people can buy because no one has enough money to buy anything. Look at us in Soviet Russia. There's nothing on the shelves because you are all wealthy. You'll have so much money that they can't be. So however they would put it. And somebody said, well, George Gamon says that. I'm like, yeah, he probably took the same history class that I did. Because remember, if you're a history buff, you have early onset republicanism. Wealth building journey. I agree that the bias for action. Okay, we went through that. Seemed like the Vegas VIB tickets were sold out before any general admissions tickets were sold out. There was, yeah. Those were gone, I think, quickly. Yeah.
He underpriced them. They're only $500, I think. And I'm like, this is
He
a
did.
no-brainer.
So the problem, not the problem, the cool thing about Zuber is he's really not trying to monetize it. He's like, okay, here's my expenses. But if I multiply the number of people coming by my expenses, how do I get to kind of at least break even? He wasn't thinking, how do I monetize this and have the best? So I'm not going to say he's done anything wrong. I'm super excited about going to the event. I actually like it that he's not trying to do that. Yeah. All-nighter hider. That's a super reasonable price for the value, which was said probably 20 minutes ago. Then I see there was the Jason with the pre-approval. And my chat moved, which I appreciate because that means comments were put in. Wasn't there a question from Cody that I missed? Oh, your goals for 2024. Okay, we got those. Josh, for you, I think, explain the difference between a debt partnership and an equity partnership.
Got it. So I feel like I'm Cody, deal debt than equity. But when you're buying a property, if I'm buying it with a partner, an equity partner, we're both owners of the property. So we share in the upside, we share in the downside, so that's one type of partnership. Then there's a debt side. A debt side is they're lending you money to go buy a property. There's a fixed, agreed upon return for that person. Just like when you go get a bank loan, that's all structured up front, and then there's standardized payments. The money comes to you, you operate by those rules, but you don't have to deal with that person. You get all the upside, you get all the downside. And generally speaking, when I'm borrowing private money, it's I fix it up, I add value, I then do a cash out refi. They get their money back, then I own it by myself. It's just easier as you start getting into more properties. If I have to talk to more people, that slows things down for me. So I'm just trying to do more deals by myself. So that's why I went from the equity side over to the debt side.
Nice. I have not done any partnerships. The closest I've come was me and Millennial Mike were making an offer on a 5-plex in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up not going through with it. Have you met people? This is why I don't do partnerships. I like Mike, but there's a lot of other people out there. Jason says, my pre-approval only knocked my credit score down by 4 points. I expected way worse. I'm happy. Just need to find a damn deal. And you have that 30-day window when you have your credit score checked to have it checked by similar lenders to check what other people's rates are and what their cost to buy down the rate would be. So I sometimes recommend doing that. I do not teach how to do credit scores because if I did, I would have like an 850 credit score. And so I'm going to show you Credit Karma. If I do Credit Karma, it'll do face. And then this is my credit score. Is it visible there?
Yeah, 811.
11. Not good enough for me to teach how to do credit. But I do recommend an order of operations when it comes to lenders.
You got me beat by about 100. I'm at like 710 to 720 because I'm high leverage. So
High leverage, high activity. I think as long as you have a 680 or higher, you have enough options to do almost all the lending that there is. I think once you pass that, they say 740, but I would go for 760 or 770 because your FICO score is often a little off of what the lenders are actually going to see. But again, I don't teach credit because I reached financial freedom. I did it in a lazy way. I'm teaching that. I don't have a good enough credit score to say this is how you do credit. That one guy, great name, howdy. Have you ever bought any homes on seller financing? If yes, how was your experience? And if no, why? I'll let you go first.
I'm trying to think how many I have. I probably have at least 10 properties on seller financing. Pretty much all that I bought this year is seller financing or debt partner with hard money lending. So no traditional banks. And you're like, well, wow, how'd you do that? It's because I had to. Like when I had Amazon W-2, like you can get money all the time. When you don't have a structured job or, they want 2 years of history. So I'm like, well, how do I keep buying deals? Oh, I got to get creative. So I specifically look for scenarios where I can do creative financing. So I love creative financing. What was the second half of the question?
If you didn't, if no and why. So that'll be my half of the question.
Oh,
I'm open to seller financing. I actually have done a lot of research, got together with people like you that have done seller financing and put together a seller financing. It's not a letter. It's like all the bullet points that you can have stored ready to use if you're talking to a seller. The benefits to the seller and point out the benefits to you so that they are less likely to consider it a scam. Because when you point out what you want, people are more likely to trust you. You can get that letter for free in the free binder course. It's actually included in there. All of my deals are from the MLS, conventional lending. I haven't even used my VA loan. My last one I purchased cash because it sucks that the money keeps piling up and you got to put it somewhere. I'm open to the idea of seller financing, but when I was investing, I was working full-time and raising 3 kids, and I didn't even have time for conversations. I was looking at deals, making offers, and I found all of my properties on the MLS. No seller financing. You can seller finance properties that you find on the MLS too. Just hasn't worked out for me. Janet, howdy. How are you doing? I'm doing marvelous. How do you feel about the Dallas market? North Dallas. So, how many states would fit in Texas? There's a lot of people who say, I live in California, it's too expensive to invest here. Well, I'm like, okay, do you live in the Valley? Are you in Silicon Valley? Are you in Sacramento? Are you in San Francisco? Are you in Los Angeles? Yeah, it's probably too expensive. Do you live in Kern County? Have you looked at Fraser Park? Have you looked at Bakersfield? You can find actual good deals in that area. I've got friends that invest. My brother invests at the edge of Kern County out in Rosemont. Totally different, right? So if you're in Texas and somebody says, what do you feel about this market, North Dallas? You'd have to break it down. There's probably 2 states in Dallas as far as compared to the state size for the rest of the country, and then break that down in there. I would probably avoid the actual city limits of Dallas, right? The more congregated people are, the more left the laws lean, less, more insane. So an example is my properties are all in Washington. And for a long time, I said all of my rentals are between Olympia and Tacoma in Washington, but none of them are in Olympia or Tacoma in Washington because I don't want to be inside city limits. Google the new laws that Tacoma just came out with for inside city limits. So in the North Dallas area, I'd get out of the Dallas city limits. I'd look at the suburbs, and then I would find the biggest hubs, and I would draw circles around the hub to go out until I found that equilibrium between price and rents. Someone is investing there successfully. I would find the investing groups and figure out what strategies are working, take the time to study and learn the market. You're going to hear a lot of people say, well, be really careful. The taxes reset every year in Texas, just like they do in Washington State. That's not a deal breaker for me. We don't pay property taxes. The tenants do. So do you have trusted boots on the ground there? Do you live close by? Do you know the areas to avoid, the areas to invest in? I don't have a problem with it. I have a niece who moved, I think, to Austin, and a nephew that moved to San Antonio. Just went to San Antonio for the second time in my life, about a month or 2 ago now. The cost of living in Texas is a lot less than it is in Washington, at least the area that I live in to the areas that I've been there. The meals that I had in San Antonio were probably $25 meals. That would be $45 meals in Washington. Right? So just look using food and then fuel. I took pictures of the fuel because it was like $2.89 or something, and it's $4.99, $4.89 here. So if things cost less, really do a rent study based on that local market. Remember, real estate is local. Do the same things. What would BAH pay for an area? What is the housing authority doing for Section 8 rents, fair market rents, January 1st? Look up your county, your state. Do an area average study. I don't feel anything because it's not my market, but no market is good or bad. It's just that some strategies don't work in an area and some do. In Washington State, I've been investing for a little over 10 years. I have not seen, not one, single family house that would cash flow. So I went with small multifamily. I have a friend, she's moved away. She invests in Ohio. We looked at her deals, and I looked at small multifamily in the same areas that she was. I was trying to help her understand her market. She has boots on the ground there. Single family houses outperform the small multifamily. So she owns, I think, 3 single family houses there now. You have to know what's working in your area. Is it single family, house with ADU, small multifamily, RV lot? What works in that area? And be willing to change your opinion based on the evidence. Remember, a police officer was only a cop for 8 years, but you can't show up at a scene and think, I think this happened. Let me find the evidence to back that up. So you don't go, I want to use this strategy. Let me look for evidence that will prove it. You have to look at the crime scene, Look at the evidence and let that tell you the story of what happened. Look at your market and be willing to change the strategy that you want to use. See, we have a super chat pop in here from Millennial Mike. Howdy, who I invited, but he said something about Justin beat me at soccer. I'm never talking to him again. I've paraphrased. Super chatting for Justin. Thank you. Dion's overrated. Totally agree. Did this out of state investing king already explain how he built his over 100 unit portfolio in the Rust Belt? He did. He did, Mike. So at some point, you'll have to listen to the second 10-minute section of this video at 2x speed to get there through the first one. And thank you for the super chat. It is appreciated. Tells YouTube somebody likes the content. Remember, if you like the content, you don't have to super chat. I would appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up. If you don't like the content, make sure you hit the thumbs down twice so that I know you meant it. Keith, howdy. How do you accept rent payments? Apple Pay, Venmo, PayPal, direct deposit, check, credit cards. I'll let you go first.
So multiple strategies in terms of how I collect it. Everything out of state is all, yeah. I used to only manage one property or one rental unit. So all the rental units, is managed by a property manager. All those property managers have some sort of portal that they pay through, whether that's Airbnb. Most of them, I'd say 95% is AppFolio. So they use the property management software, which collects it. The one that I was using when I was doing the medium term rental was only one unit. I was doing Venmo, which is not a great way to do it. It's a counting nightmare. So I just switched it to Avail, and now I have pay somebody to manage that one. So I don't even manage the one that's below me where I live at. I would not do anything cash. Venmo, I would recommend against it after doing it. Avail is out there. You can use Stripe. But ideally, if you're using a property manager, they've already got it solved for you. So don't worry about it. Just work with the property manager. And I'm exactly 180 from Dion. Dion does all his own. I hate property management. So like, I don't want to get in the weeds unless I'm losing money. Then I'm in your weeds, and I'm trying to figure out how do we fix this problem.
So you're right. We're diametrically opposed. I like to it. I invest locally though. If I invested out of state, I'd absolutely have a property manager. I'm not going to manage properties at a distance unless it's my current portfolio where I built the systems and I lived here for years and then I move away. I would probably still self-manage remotely because I have all the teams in place to do that. I accept cash as long as it does three things. Not cash. I accept rent payments as long as it does three things. One, it makes it easy on the tenant. I am trying to limit tenant turnover. It's one of the reasons why I use the binder strategy. You end up with happy tenants. So what app is the tenant most likely to want to use? I only have 16 rental units until this one's done. I will have a 17th one rented out and I'm house hacking the 18th. But 16 coming in, Apple Pay, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Carrier Pigeon, doesn't matter. As long as it's easy on the tenant. The second thing is I want it to leave a paper trail. So my one tenant who does pay in cash, 20s, all covered in glitter. He's my age and twice my size, so I never ask questions. I give a receipt and an email sent at the time. Here is a picture of the money that you gave me. Your rent is paid for this month. Clear so that it's auditable if I'm audited. So it has to leave a paper trail, and everything does. Apple Pay, Venmo, Cash App. I've had people say, well, don't take Venmo because if you want to evict a tenant, they can make a partial payment. Well, one of the things that I remembered it now, and I didn't remember when I was talking to Dana from Hemlane, that my attorney added to my lease is a blurb that says something like, and I'm probably going to butcher this, in the event of a partial rent payment being made, rents are not collected and they are held in a holding account until rent is paid in full. So that stops the eviction process from being delayed in the counties where I invest. Make sure you check with an attorney to see if that works where you live. Third thing I wanted to do, most times it saves me a trip to the bank. Right? I've got one tenant who gives me a stack of checks and then I just deposit one every month with an app. All of the other tenants are online. I'm not going to make the one who gives me checks learn how to use the internet. She has a flip phone and no actual internet connection at her house. when I have a tenant turnover, the new tenants will be on the platform somewhere paying rent. So that's how I collect rents. Make sure you keep good records and report all of your income, because while prison is the ultimate house hack, it is not my chosen form of retirement. Aldo, thanks, Dion. Now I'm wondering if I should cash out, refinance, and use the 40K equity to buy another property, since I would lose the 30.8% rate. Any last thoughts? I appreciate your time. Would you get the 40% equity if you refinanced? What would the cost of the pulling it out? Because they're only going to go to 70, 75, maybe 80% of the loan to value on a refi, unless you refi to another conventional owner occupied loan. They might go a little higher. So you won't be able to pull out all of the equity. So what would you be left with? What will it do to your rate? What will it do to the payment? Because whenever it comes to, should I touch my equity, there's like an order of operations here, and I kind of do these backwards. The last thing you think about is, how do I touch the equity? Is it a HELOC? Is it a second mortgage? Instead of cash out refinancing and adjusting your 3.8% to a 6% or a 6.5%, maybe a second mortgage will get you a better rate on fixed rate debt. I would only do a HELOC if I could pay it off before the adjustable rate hit, right? So you've got to look at what you're going to do there. But before you go, how do I touch it? The step before that is, if I touch it, what's the use? Do I have confidence in my ability to find a deal that justifies the purchase of the asset that I'm finding and the added debt to the existing asset? Because that's what equity is. Let's redefine equity as the ability to put debt on an existing asset. So yeah, final thoughts there. Tons of different options to look at. I put my email in the chat a couple of times if you want to send me like a little bit more exact details, the price, what your current loan to value is. Have you talked to a lender to see what it would be to refinance out, what your options are? You can do that without a cost. Maybe I can give you a little guidance there. And Josh up there. G, when you are averaging the days on market for potential deals, how do you calculate things that have been on the market? Do you watch them come off the listings? So I wouldn't say I'm organized enough like Chester is to have a spreadsheet watching all of the properties to see what happens to their prices over time. I'm in a fairly easy market to watch, and I got this information from a realtor with access to this data. But most of the counties I invest in, the average days on market is between 6 and 9 days. It's less than 10 days on market. So I have my searches right now above 30 days on market, and I generally am only looking at things to when I was making offers at over 60 days. And the two that I had accepted offers on were both on the market over 100 days. So I don't even have to do an average. It's like 6 to 9, but I'm making offers on ones over 100. That's a big enough spread. If you have to get so nuanced, I think we're overanalyzing. What is significantly more than what you think is average, that's where you make a lower offer on that makes sense to you. Significantly over doesn't have to be defined. Multiples of it, maybe that's as close a definition as I would need. Lighters out. Also slow, not sexy, and boring, Tony. Exactly.
One follow-up on that one. The question was about what to offer on relative to days on market and tracking it over time. So there's if you're working with an agent specific in that area, when you're analyzing your buy box, you'll know that fairly quickly. But one thing I'll add there is, from my side, because I'm looking for off-market deals, a lot of those off-market deals, I can pay for data providers to give me canceled listings and expired listings. So I have a virtual assistant. That's all that she's doing. She calls them. If they're still interested in selling, then I call them. And then I try to feel them out. When's their timeline? How much money do you need? Do you need it all today? Will you take it over time? And then I'm trying to craft an offer with them on the phone. So that's how I'm getting these off market, these seller finance creative deals. They didn't sell on market. If I can come in and give them a solution that works for them and I can buy the property, then it's a win-win.
Nice. I like the canceled and the ones pulled off. That's a great strategy too. Again, I go back to being lazy. Right? if you look at the strategies of how you can find properties, that's why I want to have people like you and Mike and Matt come on here, because there's so many more creative ways of driving for dollars. I think it was Cody interviewed on One Rental at a Time. Cody Evers, not Cody Davis, calling rentals and saying, look, I see you have a unit for rent. I'm interested in buying in this area. Is this one for sale? Or do you have any others for sale? Right? It's a great strategy. I'm like, I got 15 minutes. Let me look at some emails. Oh, those look good. I'm going to put those over here. I'm going to watch that one just mentally. I probably won't even write it down. And I'll watch, and eventually I might make an offer on that one. It's like kindergarten simple, but not as effective. I think all of the creative ways that people have to do what you're doing is more effective.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cody and Wealth Building Journey talk a little bit about my goal of being in Thailand. Wealth Building Journey say check out Phnom Penh and Pattaya. So I accidentally went to Pattaya one time. What I like about Thailand is the warm weather and the scuba diving, and the fact that there's a lot of happy people there. The people, the Thai people and the tourists, they're all happy. And everybody was always in good. Never had a negative experience there. If you're a single guy and you want to do single guy things, you go to Pattaya. But if you're me and you're allergic to all women, I went to Khao Phanong, Koh Tao, Chiang Mai. Go for the weather, go for the scuba diving, go for the islands. The closest thing I did to going to Pattaya that I would enjoy is like the 3-day full moon party on Khao Phanong. That's the closest to that kind of stuff that I'll do. But Pattaya is where you go for things, you know, what happens in Thailand stays on YouTube kind of stuff. So good suggestion, not where I'm going back to. I literally have videos of my brother being drug off the street. I should share that someday. The Town Bomb, howdy. Why is there not a Three Amigos packed subscription? Do it. Ooh, that's a good idea. REI Stoners, howdy, superstar. So we got Cody, Frank, REI Stoners, all the people getting on One Rental at a Time here. Hopefully people that have a story to share are reaching out to Zuber and getting interviewed on there. Jared, I have some high interest loans. At what interest difference does it start making sense to refinance? I'll let you start with that.
The general rule is around 1%, but you should do the math and look at the amortization schedules to figure out what that monthly spread is going to be for you. But for me, it's usually 1%, or because I like doing deals, I may restructure the deal to where I can continue to buy, even if it's a push. So even if it's the same interest rate, I might do that. So it's all depending on what you're going to use that money for. So if it's just same, you're just trying to, does it make sense? Usually it's about 1%. It's the rule of thumb.
Yeah, the rule of thumb I've heard is 1%. In 2020, I refinanced. I waited for 1.5%, and I went to start it, and I ended up refinancing it like 3 points different. So I went from 6 to 3 on half my portfolio.
Nice.
That didn't suck. That was a nice boost to cash flow. A lot of my mortgages went down $400 or $500 a month. But I agree, a point, that's a good marker. Brett, member but can't make the live tonight. Can you talk about the steps you took leading up to your first deal as the mindset change it took to pull the trigger? Brett B. Howdy, Brett. So tonight is not a members only live. That'll be Saturday. Tonight is the course video, which is starting in about 40 minutes. So if you're in the course, we'll see you there. This is portfolio deep dives and specific deal help. Not quite so much with the members. The member is specifically looking at deals because it's boring and it would kill my YouTube channel. But there are people who want to see what does an investor look at when he's actually analyzing a deal. So, Justin, how did you, okay, so the steps you took leading up to your first deal, start with that.
So for my first step was, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm always going to be working. So I was like, somehow I have to make more money. And I was like, and I can see all these people who are wealthy, they're doing real estate. So I was like, well, if I called it the and one versus a house hack. So I was like, how do I buy a house that's going to actually generate money? And so I just started analyzing deals. For me, I got my MBA and I just got into finance. So I was, very well versed in cranking out financial models. So I just spent my time going through Redfin, looking at these deals, and through no fault of my own, Amazon stock was shooting through the roof. So these stocks that I had went up in value. So it's just a matter of I had to analyze a bunch of deals, get in and start putting some offers in. But for me, it was like, I'm going to do this. And so I'm going to put offers in. And, when I bought my first one, when I was actually like an investor, because I owned houses before, but I wasn't like an investor until 2016. And at that point in time, it was super hot because like my property that I bought was listed at 450 and I put an escalation to 650. So I was all in because I was like, this is going to have value because I can rent the bottom out. There's extra land there. I can build there in the future. I was like, this is the one. So, do the analysis, and I was committed. I was going to buy a property.
I think one of the most important steps I have 6 steps on reaching financial freedom, right? So the first one is saving, and saving doesn't mean spending less. It means make more. Don't let life kick in, right? So making more money has more of an impact than spending less money. So we're learning to save, we work on credit. And then the third one is you talk to a lender, right? This is what changed my mindset on owning a rental is I thought I could save up money and buy a single family house. My lender said, you can't. Your debt to income ratio sucks. It's like I owned a house. I'd be buying another one, so I'd have 2 mortgages. And when you first start those first 2 years, it's like Justin said, once you don't have the W-2, it's really hard to get that money to keep coming in. Well, once you hit your debt to income ratio, I had a bunch of bad debt I didn't know about until the divorce. I found out about, and I hate saying these numbers out loud, $313,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know existed till the divorce, which I negotiated down to $89,000 that I ended up having to pay back. So yay, life. But the lender said, you just can't. I mean, the only way we'd be able to ever buy a property is if you had rental income on your tax return. So when they said that, I said, I can move out of my house, rent my house out for 2 years, and then my debt to income ratio isn't impacted. So it was talking to a lender to find out what options existed for me that you might need to do. Go find a lender, find out, this is my situation, this is what I'm looking to do. Is it even possible, right? And then maybe if it's not, now you start looking at DSCR loans, asset-based lending, seller financing. Like there's a ton of other options. You're not dead in the water if an official, actual, traditional lender says, yeah, we can't work with you, right? There's other options, but you don't know that until you go and find out. So save, credit score, talk to a lender, find out what your options are. And then the second half of this is you covered the mindset change. If you didn't do this, you're going to have to work forever. Mine was my pensions kept getting taken away. I tried the Marine Corps. They downsized after Desert Storm. I tried law enforcement. They downsized after 2008. I went into a trucking company that was part of a union, Oak Harbor Freight Lines. They went on strike, and it still hasn't been resolved. And this has been 13, 14 years now, right? So the ways I thought of getting a pension, the traditional, normal way, kept getting taken away. So I thought, my mental shift was I need to create my own pension. And that's what I did. And so the first deal, I looked for, while I was saving and working on my credit score and getting the house rented out for those first 2 years, I was looking at single family houses because I understood them. I thought I lived in one, I can live in another, kids will live there. And I lived in those apartments for 2 years. And then I realized that if I bought a duplex, right, this is, they actually cash flowed, single family houses didn't. And it was like living in an apartment like we were, except I got to pick the neighbors. And we had a fenced yard and a garage, like totally different than the apartment. So a house hack was a move up for us.
One thing I just want to add in there is mindset. In today's world, and I think everyone started seeing this year. Before, if you're in tech or, there's these jobs that people are like, oh, I have security. And then look at all the jobs that have been lost. I mean, Amazon, I don't even know what the number is. It was 18,000 in January. They had more and more and more. It's probably 30, 40,000 jobs that were cut. And so in today's world, there isn't the security. There isn't the pension that Dion's talking about. You have to have some sort of side hustle money so that you have, in a way you're like sovereign, like you have enough money, you don't worry about anything else. And, that's for me, like, I don't ever want to rely on somebody ever again, because now you're dependent on them. Once you get freedom and you have independence, I mean, there's no way to describe it. It's amazing, but you got to get into the game and you got to start getting some sort of side hustle money.
A lot of us focus on, when we reach financial freedom and retire early, we say things like, every day is Saturday. I say every night is Friday night. There's no alarm clock. That is the lifestyle. What we don't cover enough, because there aren't words to express the massive mountain of weight that was on your shoulders and my shoulders when we had to sell our lives 1 hour at a time. Because what do you do when somebody's not going to buy it? Versus, I can do something productive. I can go get a job. I can develop a passion. I can make some money on the side. Great. But if I don't, like if I just want to go, and I say sit on the beach, but let's say scuba dive every day, and I want to spend $400 a day scuba diving, which is, it's like $30 a day in Thailand. But if I went anywhere in the world, spent $40 a day, I'd still never run out of money, because more than that is coming in every day. You can't put it into words. They just don't exist. Sean, howdy. I'm worried that if I do the binder strategy, my tenant won't go up enough. Market rent is $800 and I want $600 minimum, which is 50% increase. I'm in a class C market with tenants that don't make a lot. They're at $400 now. Okay, so market rent is $800. I want $600. You'll be surprised. So here's how this works. Step back for a second and let's remove all emotion. And this is one of the reasons why I was demoted to the president of the company, because most CEOs and company presidents are sociopaths. So you can completely remove all emotion from decisions. This is when it comes to hiring, firing, contracts, termination, whatever you're looking at, remove all emotion. The best outcome for you as a landlord, the best outcome financially, is the tenant moves out. You do a rehab, you spend money, market rents are $8. Now you're getting $850. You're going to be top market rents in the area because you have the shiniest new rental that's all rehabbed. Financially, that's the best outcome. Do you want to dislocate a tenant? No. Do you want to spend the money on a rehab? No. Do you want to manage contractors or handyman to do the rehab? No. Do you want to list a property, screen a tenant, place a tenant? No. So the best financial outcome is your worst case scenario, because you're trying to skip all of those. I like how it did me the thumb down in your Zoom there.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I does this and gives me the fireworks. I haven't got them all figured out yet. It's the new AI thing watching this.
Yeah.
So you're talking to the tenant, they're at 400, the market rent's at 800. You're going to have the conversation. If you went in and said, hey, I'm going to raise your rent to 500, you're a jerk. You just gave your tenants a 25% rent increase. California limits you to 10%, right? So if you did 25, you're a complete jerk, but you're still 300 below area average, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to go in with the binder strategy, and you want to have several examples of 800. You want to have the fair market rents from the housing authority, maybe BAH, examples of places with the same number of bedrooms, very similar to yours in the same neighborhood, that are at 800 or more, 750, 800 or more. You're showing the average is 800. And you ask the tenant, what do you think is fair? If the tenant says 400 is fair, obviously that you're going to kick them out. You're going to go through your worst case scenario of making way more money by doing a rehab and renting out the units. So I had this conversation with Dividend Dave a while back, and it actually kind of added this to the binder strategy, because I've had this conversation and I had never expressed it in a video, because only one time have I had a tenant, I forget what her rents were, where it was 800 or 900 and market was 15, and she wanted to go to like 11 and I wanted 13 something, whatever. It was something like that. It was like pretty big spread. She went close to hers. So what I did, some people will see the numbers and the highlighted things in the binder that you use, and some people need a visual. So if I understood how to use whiteboard and Zoom, I would do it. And hopefully this is visible at all. But what you do is you draw a line. This is your 800, right? This is your 400. So you've got 800 and 400. Draw a visible line, and you tell your tenant, here's where you're at. You're at 400. If you moved out, area average is up here at 800. You're offering 500. That's fair for you. It's really close to where you're at. But do you see how far away that is from 800? And when they visually see that fair would be splitting the difference, that would be 600. You might not even have to do this. You'll be surprised. They might know that 800 is good. They don't want you to kick them out, and they might go right up to 7 right off the bat. They might go to 650. You won't know until you have the conversation. But be ready with a pen and paper to draw the two lines and say, here's where you are, here's where I would be if you moved out. Do you see how close you are to yours? And that's why it's fair to you, but does that look fair to me? You might be surprised. Let me know how it goes. Because Michelle, who I usually see in the chat, and my friend Dan, who retired last year in August, like a couple months after me, but nobody's counting, both did the binder strategy. We're hoping for a rent increase. Dan had reached out to me saying, I don't know that they're going to come up this high. This is where I'm hoping for. Both tenants in both of those situations went higher. They asked for a bigger rent increase than Michelle or Dan was comfortable with. And both of them told the tenant, that would be great. Why don't we go less than that? Imagine the happiness the tenant has when they posited a number and the person said, no, it's great. Let's go lower than that. I'm trying to think if I've done, I don't think I've done that. I think I've always said, oh, that seems fair, except for the one time. And the one time did the line, said, look how close you are to what yours seems fair, but it's not fair to me. And then we readjusted. It is a conversation. It's not, here's the binder strategy. Whatever you say is, we're going to lock into that, right? It's, you have an ongoing conversation if they don't suggest enough. I'll email you the numbers. When I bought the place, all incomes were 40 to 50% under market. Hers was 48% under market. Awesome. Nice. Daria says, good to see you here, Justin. Like that. And there's the fair market rent. Sorry, I stoners. People love to waste money. I've had at least 10 people pay for an application and then never show up for a viewing. Yeah, that is no bueno. I've had a few of those. Not my last one. Had 6 people pay for the application. They showed up. Had 27 people total show up. Yeah. And then I lost my chat spot here. And then Daria took a message back to make me lose sleep forever and ever wonder what was said. Can I get a Section 8 housing tenant with an ADU that's not permitted? Possibly. It will be inspected by Section 8. Can't hurt to have it inspected, see if they approve it. There are several things that they can disqualify it for or call it different than what you think it is. But it never hurts to have the inspection, but I would say possibly. Curtis, Dion, when updating a unit or after a turnover, do you standardize your unit like Lumberjack Landlord does? Yeah, pretty much. I'm trying to think. I don't do cabinets and countertops. Or if they were really bad, I would sand and paint or maybe refinish, but I've not replaced. I've done some repairs on those, but I'll generally, when I buy a property and there's a tenant in place, if there's carpet, I don't kick the tenant out so I can take the carpet out. Right? That tenant stays. But when there's a tenant turnover, that most recent one, carpet comes out, LVP or LVT goes in, new trim, maintenance, all doors. I usually swap out the electric when I buy a place. I don't go in and swap out the electric because it's usually the older, rounder, figure 8 looking thing. I'll put in the square stuff. Generally, I'll put in a timer for fans in the bathrooms. And I'm trying to think of what else that's standard that I do. But yeah, it's pretty much standardized. Other than Matt will do full, because in his market, it makes a massive difference if it's high-end new finishes, right? He'll get significantly more rent. I could put platinum countertops in and plywood, unfinished plywood countertops, and I'd get about $20 difference in rent. My area, my market, it just doesn't matter. I have a friend purchased a duplex. She spent 28 grand on a rehab. She gets exactly the same rent on that side of the duplex as the other side of the duplex, which hasn't been touched. So you have to know your local market on what you would be willing to do. Hamlet, howdy. All kinds of Shakespeare jokes came to mind. Would you get into a deal that doesn't cash flow well to start? Breaks even, puts $100 to $200 in your pocket? Thanks. So Justin actually talked about some break-even deals, which you're calling alligator, because that means you're generally, if it's break-even, you're not setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. So if I'm setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, and it puts $100 or $200 a month in my pocket, $100 is probably my minimum threshold. I wouldn't want to deal with a tenant with less than $100 in cash flow of profit, like beyond setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. So when the water heater goes out, it's not my cash flow paying for that. It's the money being set aside from rents that's paying for that. Let's say it's $200 for the property. That would mean that I would want to make sure my yield was my acceptable range. And so what you do is you study your market, figure out what an area average yield is, and then you try to do better than that. And for me, for a long time here in Washington, I could find 7 and 8% yields fairly consistently. Maybe 20 deals out of 100 would do that. So I'd pursue the ones that had a 10% yield, right? A bit more than what area average was. So if I'm going to get $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year in cash flow profit, meaning the cost to enter into that property would have to be $24,000 or less for me to get 10% yield. I would literally run the math. I wouldn't do it for a break-even deal. There's better uses of my money with a small portfolio without looking at 5 or 10 or 15 years down the road. I want cash flow, not month one, not day one, but year one. I want to have cash flow. I've bought properties that needed a roof, had to have some tenant turnover. Like there are times with that's the case, but I run the rents as though it was just below area average rents, and I run it as though if it was a house hack, it's the year after I move out, so all units are rented. We're calculating those numbers not to find out how much we're going to make, but to find out what the yield is to make sure it's worth pursuing. Question for Justin: do you also follow the uneducated economist?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I just listened to him Monday night on his where he was talking about how he figured out how the macroeconomics and the Fed operates. So yeah, I'm big into, the sphere around, George Gamon, rebel capitalist, uneducated economist. My big one now, I'm assuming that's All Nighter Hider that asked it, but Blockworks. If you're into macroeconomics, I love that stuff. And the David Lynn report, TDLR.
Nice. I'm looking for other further questions as we're probably wrapping up in like 10 minutes or so. I got my premium Zuberfest ticket on the first day. Nice. All Night I just got back after an important call. I'll send this Simon, the uneducated economist. T. Adams. Yes, that's where we are. Can't get a loan yet because business has not been established long enough. So then you can look at DSCR loans, because remember, debt to income ratio, salary, your work history doesn't matter. They're looking at your credit score and how the property will perform. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes with a higher interest rate. There was a time in about the end of 2021 where they were flipped and DSCR were getting better rates than conventional. So you want seller financing? Good. Oliver, do you have any of your tenants ask for a rental declaration? Justin?
So say that question. I was reading the comments down here.
I get stuck with the same thing. Do you have any of your tenants ask for a rental declaration?
I don't even know what that is.
I have to Google it really quick because I don't know either. So apparently that's not happened. Rental declaration form must be filled out by the owner of a residential property indicated by the lease agreement submitted by the applicant. This serves as I'm going to have to open that. So the answer would be no. Rental declaration form must be filled out by the owner of a residential property indicated in the lease agreement submitted by the applicant. This serves as a confirmation of the address indicated by the applicant for the application for a resident. It's document submitted to identity. Nope. Never heard of it. Hasn't been a thing. Don't know that I would have a problem filling it out. It's kind of like, I want to say I'm a conservative, but I'm not religious. So I lean right. Everyone complains when people go, Venmo is going to have to report a transaction of $600 or more. They're also going to report the transaction you should also be reporting, right? So I'm not worried about that. So if somebody wants a rental declaration form, I would fill it out. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'm sure it has a use for them. Residency, proof of rent for a loan or something, like I'm sure it has it. And usually you can just use your lease or a power bill or something like that for that.
I usually I was thinking about the inverse of that. So I'm usually, so when I go buy properties, sometimes these are tired landlords. I'll ask for it's called an estoppel agreement. So they're saying the rent is say 1,000, but how do I know it's 1,000? So I'll go to the tenant and say, sign this paperwork that says that you're paying $1,000, so that when I go buy it, and they're like, "Hey, the rent's only 500," I'd be like, "No, no, you signed this document that said it was $1,000." So it's different formats where I'm usually asking them, not the inverse. Because I have property managers, probably that's why I don't know about it. If they're asking me, they talk to property manager, they're probably furnishing it for them.
If any of your tenants ask, okay, T. Adams, howdy, T. Adams. Good to see you. Wealth building journey. Texas is the third largest state by square mileage after Alaska and California. That is inaccurate. Texas is, let me look, 261,000 square miles. California is 155. Texas is big, but Alaska is much bigger. Like I took an Alaska cruise, and that was one of their kind of bragging points, is you could fit 3 Texases in here or something. I don't know what it was, but California's big. It's not as big as Texas. Justin, are you on Instagram? Would like to connect. Did you put that in that chat you said?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Just heard the Justin shout out. Awesome. Hey, Justin, will you be making it to Dion's meetup January 8th? Dion's meetup. Do I have a meetup January 8th? Oh, the Tacoma FI meetup. Have you gone to those?
I've gone to a couple of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So apparently there's one January 8th. I knew that we were taking December off, but if you're going to be there, that'd be cool. I'm hoping we're doing it any day but a Tuesday, because now that I've moved out to Port Orchard, it's harder to get to Tacoma, the Compton, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Did Millennial Mike, did Justin explain his seller financing and bringing on private money investor? Yeah, you did that. T. Adams, you can do a deposit in your bank account for the paper trail. Exactly. I care about it posting an account because I want to show business making money to get loans. I know that's I've had some tenants, the one that gives me cash. He goes, "Yeah, I just pay cash, so you don't have to pay taxes." And I'm like, "No, I report this and I still don't pay taxes." So I'm trying to get this guy to buy a property. I report it so that I can buy the next property and still not pay taxes on it. REI Stoners, I added my flight, ticket, and Airbnb charges to my expenses this year. Is that okay? Though I don't have a business, I'm going to ask my accountant. But what's your understanding? This is under the educational format. The trip is for education. Some of the expenses would fall under that, probably not all of them. When I'm traveling, I'm learning markets. I'm having meals with other investors. That's how my accountant is okay with my travel. You also have a YouTube channel, REI Stoners. So all of your travel that you make videos on, you can attribute to at least towards that once you start making income there. Let's get you monetized. So always check with your CPA. I give all of the information to the CPA and I let them choose. They'll say things sometimes like, "Well, we can report it. It's legal, but it might flag you for an audit." Great. Let them waste their money. I report everything anyway. Audit me, that's fine. I paid my $145 for my audit insurance. That's work for you. So yeah, it might flag me for an audit, but I don't care. I want the deduction. BuzzTune, for the 100K you spent on conferences, education, and mentorship, what's the best expenses you've had that accelerated your growth?
Let's see. The 100K. So I spent well over that. Really, what it all ends up boiling down to is the human connection. So staying in touch with Dion, with Millennial Mike, and then I just connected with REI Stoner a couple days ago, and then All Nighter Hider in Vegas. This network of people is how I continue to grow. Is like the only way I got there is like I didn't know what I was doing. I just figure it. I'd run into a block, and I'd be like, "Well, how do I figure this out?" Either I research it, figure it out, or I go talk to somebody else. And through these, whether it's a mastermind or you're going to a conference, for example, I'm wearing this shirt, right? I got the shirt, I think it was 2019. I still am friends with those core nucleus of people. We've grown our portfolios together, multiple different states, different asset strategies. That's like the gift that keeps on giving. So you're spending the money to get into the room to hang out with other players like you, and you quickly mesh with those people, and that it's never ending dividends.
Awesome. And then Dividend Dave jumps in here with his daily dad joke. Who wasn't first today? How did Moses make his tea? He brews it. I don't know if that's good timing on the dad joke, what's going on in the world. But I will read his dad jokes every video, which someday is going to bite me. We're probably going to be wrapping it up there. Michelle says, I have been looking at the properties that I have hidden and our experience expired, and now some are labeled as don't call that seller. Exactly. Millennial Mike did that to get his credit score up. His lender, when he first started, he didn't have enough credit history. There we go. Cool. There's probably some questions I'm missing there. I'll look through after this is over. If you're in the course starts at 6 o'clock Pacific, and we will be here on Zoom. Everybody in the course will jump in. Hopefully you're on Mighty Networks and you see that notification went out. Saturday, we will be doing a members-only live stream looking at deals. Hope to see you there. I'm not sure the time yet. I'm pretty sure it'll be 2 or 4. One of those 2 times, 2 or 4. Again, Justin, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your time. Like people said in the comments, you are a mountain of knowledge. I appreciate it. Can you put your Instagram in the chat one more time for people if they want to find you?
If you go to the Instagram here, my cell phone's on there. You can reach out to me as well. Thank you so much for inviting me. Would love to do more of these and give back to, I soak up all your content, whether it's you directly, you and Michael, you and the landlord, Millennial Mike, the 4 Horsemen, whatever the group is called. So thank you so much for what you do. Thanks for an invite.
I love the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I think that's better than the REI Avengers.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all for hanging out with me on a Tuesday live stream. I hope you have a week full of awesome. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.